We were just here 5 weeks ago. Today is April 2nd of 20. 5 weeks ago we put in the coil, furnace, line set's ready to flush because that's running through finished space. AC's way down on the opposite end of the house. Yeah, so we'll get the AC set outside and flush this thing. Well, solder it in outside, then flush it. I'm going to flow nitrogen while we're soldering. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic here, so we were able to just get the basement opened up. Didn't have to see the homeowner. Old pad out of here. It was down to the dirt right here, and it was sitting probably a foot off the house in each direction. And the manual says 6 inches on one side and 2 foot to the access side, which is going to be right here. So we're going to move this thing 2 feet off the house there. All we did was spread some rocks around. We had dirt underneath the pad, and then we got landscape fabric. So we're just moving some rocks around here. It's always easy to level gravel rather than dirt, so that's what we're doing here. And we'll get that 2 feet off the house and get our new you gotta get our UV resistant insulation on that line set, so we'll just steal some off of those extra rolls over there, slide that on before we solder for the most part. Let's do it. New packaging on the AC. Not sure how I feel about it yet. It worked out pretty good today. Seemed like it was gonna fall apart, but I'm in town. Took some UV insulation off of that extra piece of 3/4 we had. Hopefully we can get it slid onto this 7/8 here. It's gonna be hard going because it's smaller. It's not gonna work, is it? We'll probably have to cut it open and zip tie it. Let's just do that.
You want to?
Well, here, I could try and help you. We're going to cut it open. It would not slide on there. That's all corroded, which is making it harder. And then I just notched this out at a 45. That'll be my 90 up at the top. And then we'll slit the rest of this and zip tie it around there. And we'll get going on the soldering. Getting that blade changed. Okay, we got a little 10-inch piece. Make sure there's no dirt in there. Blow that off. Okay. Then we do a little offset to the left here so we can get our little curved piece in there. It's too long, probably.
How's that look?
Looks good.
Oh, looks good.
Alright, pull your schraders. Or wait a minute, yeah, you should probably get the little one hooked up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna squirt down the valves with the thermal gel, the heat sink, whatever. Does it work? I don't know, but we use it anyway. So we're gonna hit the valves with that and then wrap it with our wet rags, and then we'll flow nitrogen and solder.
Well, if we're staying on that line, then I can cover that guy. Well,
I don't know, I prefer that schrader to be open.
So the smoke won't. Yeah, you're right.
It's fine. Need to wring them out better. You're gonna be blowing steam all over. Blowing your fire out. Make a tighter wrap on this side of the valve. Start with a real tight wrap right here.
Where?
Right there. Now come around tight by the valve. Right over the top of that. Trying to stay as far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just stick that back in there. And then another tight wrap right here up against this valve.
You still have rags in your truck, right?
Yeah. Over the top of that cap, and then tuck that back in there. Probably the most important part about putting in an air conditioner is getting these valves wrapped and protected when you solder. And then get on there with a lot of heat and get off as soon as you can. Long drive to the job site today. 2 driveways over from the shop. Okay, we got our acetylene set at 6, oxygen at 10. He's got a nice flame going. flowing nitrogen, about 4 psi. Green, it's going to start running, start carrying your flame out onto the male end there. That huge 7/8 line is going to take forever to heat up, so it's going to be hard pressed burning it. See that big blob that's out here? You're moving your flame too much. Get out here on the male end and heat it up so it starts flowing out onto that a little bit. Quit moving that flame so erratically, just slowly. Like a pen. Start drawing on that copper and that solder will follow just like it's coming off a pencil. Blue tip's the hottest part of the flame, so get that down on it. Obviously, if you hold it one spot too long, you're going to burn a hole right on the edge of that female lip. And then you're going to want to pull it into that joint at least halfway. Stay as far, probably don't go any closer to the valve than halfway into the joint. You don't want to overheat that valve too much. And then work your way around. That solder. Keep it up. Move that solder flame right down here and shoot upwards right here with the flame. Yep. Bring the flame over here. Yep. Your flame's almost not hot enough right now.
Should I go more?
Probably. There, it's green now. But see, it's only going to flow like real close to the tip because you're not quite hot. But the more you hold it on there, the more the whole joint's going to heat up. And so you got to get way down under here and heat up. Aim that flame not towards the valve. Yeah, away from the valve like that. Now here, take that again. It's going to be hard to get your solder in there unless you put a 90 on it or something. Just keep heating that thing up. Keep that flame green. Okay, now you should be able to get underneath there with that. You got to get, the hardest part here is going to be getting the bottom of that joint. So you're going to almost want to be straight up with your flame underneath there. Yep. So it's green now, it's going to start flowing pretty good within the area of that green flame. So start dragging that solder around with your green flame until you get that nice buildup right where the joint is, so we know we don't have any holes there. And then of course at least halfway into that joint all the way around. As far as you can see the solder on the outside of that joint, you're going to see it on the in. That's how much communication we're getting inside the joint. Alright, go start heating that one up. As long as we got this pipe already hot, just work on that one. Your flame's pointing that way, so work on that one.
This one?
Yeah. And then when you come back the other way, flip your torch over.
Oh, when I come back the other way?
Yeah. And then always be mindful of the house and what kind of siding. And I mean, even if it is metal, it's going to still char if you point your torch at the house. I had to go to Sherwin-Williams once and mix up some paint for some concrete siding. Okay, now we're getting finally nitrogen flowing out the schrader over here. Let's see, I was going to do something. Oh, I was going to get a mirror and look at this while you're soldering. Alright, so this is how we check. We get a flashlight on here. We get our mirror and check all the way around. We're never going to just assume we got the bottom. We're always going to have a mirror on our things. Nothing worse than putting nitrogen in and then hear it blasting out. Now that we're further away from the valve, these couplings are going to go a lot quicker than... Right by the valve, you got the wet rags and the thermal gel. It's sucking all the heat. Hot goes to cold, so it really takes a while to solder up these. Be careful aiming that flame at your leg like that. Yeah, look at the top right there. You see how it's not coming into that joint right there? Yep. You want to get your flame over towards the middle. Yep. There, now you see how that's sucked in there?
Yeah.
There's a little spot over here that needs to be drawn in too. Point right straight in there. And it's so hot now, it's just going to go. So as soon as you move your flame there, the solder's going to follow. Hey, look at that.
That looks good.
You can point your flame up at an angle right in here and just hold it there a little bit. More towards the middle of the joint though, because that's where you're lacking, is up in the middle. I think you're pretty good. Let me look at it.
Okay. What about the second joint?
This top part, I can't see. It's hard to see what's going on. I think you're good. Just go ahead and hit that little one. You don't need to get it anywhere near that lip where keep it on the double thickness or you're going to melt the edge of that little one away, because that's going to heat up and burn a lot quicker than that big one ever did, or would. You get your flame back this way, yeah? Okay, I think you're good there. Go on to that coupling. Yeah, just pull the flame away when it starts. Yeah, that little one, you don't need to be anywhere near as close with that blue tip. You'll burn a hole in there real quick. If you do, you just got to pull the flame back and build it up. Try and drop a little more on that burnt spot there so it looks like it's, you know. Yep, perfect. Now do the other end. Just keep that flame back. And you don't ever want the flame directly on your solder like that. You want your solder to come into the flame and they meet right where you're trying to flow.
That looks good.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Now I'm going to go solder the, because we're reusing this line set, I'm going to solder the two together inside and then we're going to flush with nitrogen. I used to use RX11. But ICP doesn't want you using any chemicals on a flux, so we just blow it out with nitrogen now. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we haven't had any problems in the last couple of years doing it that way, so just keep doing it that way. This soldered together in here, and I'm going to go outside, and Cory's going to flush. And then we'll cut this apart and solder it up, pressure test, pull a vacuum, check our charge, hopefully, if it's warm enough today. So we're going to flush this guy. Basically, we're going in the little line, right?
Yep, coming off the big one.
Coming off the big one. Just high pressure nitrogen and restricting it as much as we can to blow out whatever impurities we can catch in the oil, the residual oil in that line set right now that we're reusing. Schrader valves are still out. So when we get done flushing, I'll go in there and solder up the inside. Cory will put the Schrader valves back in.
Wire.
And wire. And then we'll pressure test and pull a vacuum. Okay, I got this all fitted up. That was kind of a nightmare getting that bent in there with that big 7/8 line. Got our filter pointed at the coil. Coupling 90. Bent that with my tubing bender on the little line. Got lines wrapped so we don't catch the insulation on fire, and protecting our TXV in there with a cold rag. I'm going to solder this up. We'll pressure test, pull vacuum. Okay, we're still flowing nitrogen. Just checking these joints here. These will move when you're soldering. They heat up and then sometimes they'll fall apart, so that's why they're kind of bent down right here. You got to be careful. Sometimes you got to prop something in there to hold them up, or have somebody hold it with a tool for you while you're until the solder gets hot. So all of these joints look good. Suction line looks good. Yeah, everything looks good there. So now I didn't solder this elbow yet because I'm gonna push on an extra chunk of insulation before I solder this, so I don't have to cut it open and zip tie it on there. The old foam worked a lot better for it moves. You can pull it back and cut it loose a lot better than these newer UV resistant line set coverings. So when we're using those on a new line set, you typically got to cut it open and zip tie it. But for the foam, we can push it back and then it'll accordion back and accordion all the way back to the coil. So I'm going to put the insulation on and solder these last two joints, and then we will pressure test. Okay, we're all soldered up. Got this all sealed up here. And charge is cut loose. We're going to turn on the air and check it out and get out of here. I built this fence here back in 2003 when we sold our land. This lot here I sold to this guy in 2006, and I got to do the heating in there and all the ductwork in there. But I did lose part of my yard. Alright, so we are charging this guy. Should be writing down my numbers. What's our subcooling?
Subcooling's 10.
10 degrees subcooling,
Yeah.
that's right. Same as the AC.
The pressure's right at 190.
So we're going to add refrigerant until our line temperature, which is right here, 70 degrees about. When we're clamped onto the suction line, we're charging by subcooling because we have a TXV in there. And that pink number on the high side, 66. So we have 1 degree subcooling. We're going to add refrigerant, which we've already added almost 2 pounds, 1 pound 3/4. We're going to add until that number and that number are 10 degrees apart. The line temperature needs to be 10 degrees below the saturation temperature on the gauge. And done deal. Some kind of beefy new pallet system they got there. Wonder how they decided to come up with that. That is serious. 5-6 inches of foam on the bottom side of it. Yeah, this unit was manufactured the 5th week of 20, so came off the assembly line about not too long ago. April 2nd today. So that was a thorough explanation of how to properly solder, silver solder, and wrap your AC, and that was a really good tutorial. Happy we had time today to go through that. A lot more than, last job was that furnace and air. The AC didn't get much attention.